Welcome to Multi-World's weekly radio show about the current state of Ultimate. I'm the host and the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Keith Raynor. Keith's in Connecticut. I have literally just stepped into my hotel room in Chengdu. It is 1:15 a.m. local time. The shuttle leaves at 7 a.m. Keith, the people better appreciate that we're still doing this pod live and in person right now.
Big sacrifice for me. So I do it for the people though. I really put myself through it for the people, for the fans. If you're not giving a thumbs up for this, like what are you waiting? What are you doing out here?
I got the credential. Let me tell you a little bit about this whole journey. My plane to Seoul stopover, then connect to Chengdu. My plane is delayed due to volcano Pacific, so they can't fly the faster route over the Arctic Ocean. They have to go the long way across, like around the whole way. And so we have to stop in Tokyo and refuel and then continue. So I was on the plane for like 20 hours. Then I get laid over because I missed my connection for like basically 24 hours in Seoul. So I was in Seoul all day today, and then I took the 8 o'clock flight to Chengdu, got in. Let me tell you what, it is quite the, it feels like Olympics. Like it is there was signage and people everywhere. They're dedicated customs lane, dedicated, someone takes you over to the place where you've got to go to get the shuttle. Someone like hand walked me over to the shuttle bus, then there's like the check-in zone. It's all been extremely professional. I have seen zero of China so far. I've just been like in my little bubble. I feel like I'm in quarantine at this hotel right now.
In the NBA bubble out here. But I know also I want to let you make sure you get a chance to get some rest, some shut eye before. So I think we're gonna go into this World Games preview and do the hard part, which is picking who the heck's going to come out of Pool B. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I think we're going to hit our trivia question of the week. Trivia question.
Someone play the jingle, please.
Yeah, I'll push forward sans jingle here.
Okay.
So this week's trivia question of the week, I was watching the opening ceremonies for the World Games. I heard a tidbit about the medal count. The U.S., which dominates the Olympic medal counts, is actually third in medal count at the World Games. So, Charlie, which two countries do you think have more medals at the World Games than the U.S.?
Oh my gosh!
And chat. Feel free to fire up.
World Games, like sports. Let me think about it for a second. I believe you have to tell us about Breakmark, Keith, while I think about it.
You think about it. I'll tell people about the 20th anniversary of Breakmark, which is this year. They're celebrating. They've been doing the Instagram giveaways on Fridays. Make sure you're hitting that up, following them on Instagram so you can get some of those and take advantage of their new prices on their core sublimated items from their bundle packages that people seem to love. $30 sublimated shorts, $35 short sleeves and reversibles. So you can get all that stuff, and that's sublimated. That's not just plain stuff. You get those sublimated, so you get the great quality, amazing customer service from Breakmark. They're pumping out team orders as well. Make sure to jump on that with Breakmark, our friends over there. So Charlie, who do you think leads in the World Games medal count? I mean, we're talking tug of war. We're talking life saving, which is a swimming event. We're talking korfball. We're talking like 10 varieties of handball.
I'm gonna go Germany and Brazil.
One of those guesses is correct. The other is like not even in the top 20.
1 for 2 is incredible.
Yes, Germany is the number 2 country in total medals and in gold medals, with 436 to the United States 413. And nice job by Destalinia in the chat for getting number 1, which is Italy Italy, 490 total medals, 166 gold. Uh, Russia, France, and China round out the top 6. Although actually China is not by total. China is by gold. Uh, France, Russia, GB by totals.
Who knows, like, who plays these sports, you know? Like,
Well, look,
somebody is
the
into
U.S. is
korfball. I don't know who
hey,
they are, but
in, the U.S. is 5 behind in goals in golds, so the U.S. could meaningfully potentially take the top spot after this World Games, and so Ultimate actually has a part to play in making the U.S. the World Games gold medal leader.
here you go. Korfball, founded in the Netherlands, also very popular in Belgium and Taiwan. For some reason, people choose to play korfball instead of playing basketball, the obviously superior game.
I mean,
Okay.
we wouldn't make fun of
Let
korfball if we didn't know what the name. The name is really what gets us. I don't actually have any beef with
And
korfball.
also, people make fun of our sport, so we get to dish it out
Yes.
sometimes, once in a while, during World Games only. All right, Keith, it's time to get into the World Games. And games begin, of course, tomorrow, today here in Chengdu. The first game is about 9 hours from now. So set your calendars. I think we got a link somewhere with somebody's made a link with a spreadsheet that like auto time zone does everything. So I don't know if we have that, but if we do, we should put it in the chat or in the link in the description. So let's take. Do we have the pools? Do we have the pool graphic?
Believe we do.
I think we
Although
do.
doing it live, you never know where we're going to be at. But as we wait for that to happen, potentially we have Pool A, which is USA, Germany, Japan, and the host country China, and Pool B, Australia, Colombia, France, and Canada. For anybody who hasn't heard about how these pools were decided, Charlie was present online for this decision, but they took the top 2 ranked teams, which were US and Australia, from last year's World Games, and they took each other pairing and basically flipped a coin for which pool they would go into. And I guess Pool B lost every one of those coin flips because they got the tougher team by our
Keith, it was
opinions.
crazy.
And I've
It was crazy. So just so everybody knows, tomorrow's games, USA versus Japan to get things started in Pool A. Then we will have Colombia versus Canada. That game is at midnight Eastern time. The USA Japan game is at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Then we'll have Germany, China in Pool A, and then Australia, France in Pool B. So, I mean, it goes without saying, all of these opening games in all of these games in Pool B, not even the openers, literally every single game is going to be a banger, unless we get to day 3 and somebody's already been eliminated or something. Truly incredible. Colombia versus Canada kick things off. Like, there's no resting at this tournament. There's no warm up. It's not a whiff diff tournament where you get 4 days of games to kind of find a rhythm, and it doesn't even matter if you drop a game. If you lose that Colombia Canada game or that Australia France game, you're already like deeply on the back foot, and it is just going to be like instant intensity, which is really exciting.
Pool B is going to be thrilling. I mean, you basically you definitely can't lose twice, right? I mean, maybe there's some backdoor way that you could end up with
There's a
3-1 with 2
three-way
teams.
tie scenario. Yeah.
But odds are, if you lose once, you're at a real deficit to potentially make the bracket. Only the top 2 teams from each pool advance. So there will be 2 teams for Pool A and 2 teams for Pool B making the gold medal semifinals. So yeah, from the jump, Pool B, every game matters, and these games are short. They're going to be taking heat breaks. I think they're supposed to be 90-minute games, but with the heat breaks, it's going to be about 80-minute games. Games are at 13. I
No.
mean, you have
Let me give you
no
the official
time
rules.
to mess around.
Yeah, it's true. Games are 80 minutes to cap to 13. if there are heat breaks, they do not add time. So there are 3-minute heat timeouts in WIFDIF, I'm told. So that means that the games with heat timeouts, if they happen, will be 74 minutes to cap. Um, so, I mean, it is high variance ultimate because we never play games to 13 at this level. We never play games this short. And it means if you give up a couple breaks early in a game, you could be in real trouble.
This is going to be an environment basically unlike any other. I mean, there's no way to replicate this in practice. You know what I mean? Like the timing, the intensity, level of play. I think that the athletes who are unfamiliar with this environment are going to be in for a bit of a surprise day one.
I can tell you, it is hot. I was in Seoul today, and it was about 80, and it was like quite warm. And in Chengdu, it's like 95. Um, and like even just coming in at 1 a.m. to my hotel room, like it was warm outside. So I think it's going to be, teams are only playing one game a day, but at this level of intensity, it is just going to be like an absolute pressure cooker in more ways than one, right? Like including the heat. So it's going to be really exciting. I think outside of China, who I will say there's some little buzz going around that they took a lead in some of their warm-up matches this week against other World Games teams. Might be a little punchier than we expect, but realistically, I don't think they're going to win any games. But every other team here is capable of medaling and possibly winning gold. It is just not. If you go watch the London Invite tape, the differences were like people dropping the disc or like mis-executing on a swing pass. It wasn't like there was a team that was like way obviously better than everyone else. Like, yes, the US won. And yes, the US made fewer of those kinds of mistakes and had more defensive pressure, and like they're the best team. They should win in theory. But it's simply there's just the margins are too thin, and it's really going to come down to like who comes out and brings it from the jump, because I think that really is going to be the difference maker. Coaching is going to matter a lot too.
Being the best team is just not enough to do it. You have to play well, and because of the margins are so thin, like a bad half of ultimate could ruin your tournament. Your entire tournament could hinge on one bad half. You give up a run of 3 breaks at the wrong time, and you may be cooked. That's all it might take. So,
yeah.
Even the best players in the world are not immune to that. And we've seen steadily how teams have caught up to the US. And at this level is where you see that the most, because the US greatest strength is depth. The fact that the 100th best player in the US is probably significantly better than the 100th best player in any other country doesn't matter here, because other countries are good enough to field 10, 12, 14 good players. And we saw that last World Games. And I think that the US is going to come in a different mindset than they do at other big national events, where even though I'm sure that they try really hard, they try to erase expectations. Like, it's probably hard to remove from the back of your head. We're expected to win gold and we're expected to crush everybody. And it's just not the case here. Like, even the US team, who is the favorite, who is expected to win gold, anything less would be a disappointment. We don't have to mince words about it. Even that team knows that they could lose. And I mean, they lost to the Tokai Super Team. That is about a World Games level team.
And they've lost. They've lost games at the last 2 World Games.
Mm-hmm.
They got clocked by Germany 3 years ago, and they lost to Colombia in what at the time was like people were in disbelief that the U.S. lost a game. I will say this year's U.S. team much more prepared. They've had a lot together. They went to London Invite and played multiple days of competition. They played, a lot of like scrimmages against other World Games teams, of course, super team, and then also in the United States playing against Shame. They've had a bunch of practice weekends. 3 years ago, it was like basically coming out of COVID. They did nothing. They just kind of showed up. So the general US doesn't have enough chemistry concern, I think is mitigated a lot this cycle. I think they realized that they needed to do more preparation, and that's why they, flew across the Atlantic to play games. Um, that doesn't mean that they still can't lose. I mean, I think there are things that you look at with that team. They brought a lot of returners back, more than most teams, which can cut both ways, right? That group is for the most part on the older side. More than half the roster is Masters eligible. They do have some of the most exciting young talent in the country on the team. Henry Ing, Anna Thompson, Don Colton. The firepower is all there. They've got all the tools. They are the best team. And I think the biggest challenge for them is going to be navigating pool play when they really only have one major test against Germany. I just frankly think, looking at Japan's results from 3 years ago, and many of the players on that team are like men's players on that team are at the end of their careers. I mean, Matsuno's 41 years old. The guy he might be the GOAT, but he's just there. And Japan, to their credit, the men's team made it all the way to the finals at Worlds last year, but they got completely shelled. I don't see them competing. Germany, on the other hand, they're going to be a real test. Of course, they beat the U.S. last cycle, but the U.S. may not have a game that they feel like, wow, we really need to win this game until they get to semis. And they're just not going to get that same pressure that Pool B teams are going to face, which is, you could see it as a blessing or a curse.
As much as I usually am on the side of okay, you want to get your big test before you get to the semifinals, to the games where you literally can't lose or else you failed. Then I'm usually on that side. But given the additional prep and chemistry that this team has, and I think the intentional team building to bring back a lot of returners and to bring back players who have a lot of chemistry together within the roster, I think that is part of why this roster is comprised of the players that it is. And there are some players missing who may be more talented, but maybe didn't fit into that schema. I think that is all intentional. And I think that's going to build in some of the reserve for the US, while I think being in Pool B, just getting the snot kicked out of you every night is going to be worse. I think that's going to take a bigger toll. I do think that I worry a little bit about the age of the US and the health. When you have a 14-player roster with no subs, we saw this last time with the US. They had injuries, and it I think really hurt their effectiveness. And when you lose a player from a 14-player
they've had injuries
rotation,
leading up to this tournament.
yeah, and they took players who had injuries coming into the tournament. I was a little bit surprised by that, given how stringent the roster restrictions are. And I think that could be an area of concern. That's definitely something that I'm monitoring, given the age of the players and the health status coming in. Obviously, any injury is a freak accident. Anybody can get hurt. But you want to do anything you can to mitigate those odds because it's such a big deal at this tournament. Hopefully, everybody stays healthy.
Injuries.
I mean, we've already seen teams subbing players in and out prior to the tournament, which is unfortunate.
Yep.
We've already seen Canada, Japan. They've already made roster changes. Australia had a roster change as well. Those are the ones that are top of mind. I know it affected the German national selection process. So, these things matter.
Yeah,
France,
Ava Borneau out for France. Sally Yu out for Australia, and literally today, like a few hours ago, due to illness, Riko Yanagihara for Japan subbed out for Sayako Nemoto. And Yanagihara, I mean, she's 25. She might be the next big superstar out of Japan. I think it's a big loss for them not to have her. She's a puller, big throws, super talented. And I think we have a highlight package of her on Instagram, just throwing absolute inside out dimes from 2 or 3 years ago at AOUGC. So I'm really bummed we're not going to see her, because I think she was going to be a key piece for them. But Japan's still going to be tough. They're going to be tough. Should we go pool by pool here? The U.S. We've talked plenty about them. I don't know what more there is to say. They're going to have more experience than any of the teams here. They've got the players who played in the big spots, not just the World Games, but massive, national championships and things like that. world championship games. So they have 4 players: Carolyn Finney, Dylan Freechild, Chris Kotcher, and Grant Lindsley, who, if they win, will join Bo Kittredge as the only Ultimate players to win 3 gold medals at the World Games. So, tons of experience, plus some of the brightest young talent, as mentioned. And Claire Trope, who feels like the trump card. I thought, Trope was their best player last cycle. And I expect, assuming that she's fully healthy, she's going to have a similar impact this time around. I do think USA is going to win this Pool A. But do you gonna call a crazy early upset?
I don't think so. I think that I think Germany and Japan are both going to be comfortable getting their shots, but they're going to be very much focused on each other. And they start off with the U.S. Respectively, so before they play one another, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the U.S. is going to have a pretty diverse toolkit and be willing to dictate the style of play. It does feel like the sense that we've gotten is that this U.S. team is going to have a little bit of a different style of play than what we've seen in the past. They're maybe going to operate less centrally around any given thrower and be a lot more fluid and have a lot more disc movement, akin to the style of play we've started to see really take over North American Ultimate. Uh, so I'm not expecting really core hub handler play where you're resetting and swinging to the same people over and over again. I think you're going to see people get into little triangle dominator sets pretty frequently, and those groups of players will rotate. So I think that may benefit this team. I mean, when you look at the roster, you don't really see necessarily that like dominant center handler. Maybe you say Finney and Anna Thompson take that role from the Wometric side, but that I think that they're perfectly capable of functioning in these other types of offenses. We've seen Fury do this kind of stuff all the time. So I feel
I
like
feel like
Dylan Freechild kind of took on that role last year for the team, but I don't think he's going to be asked to do that this year.
it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. I mean, I feel like Maddie's saying doesn't like to take hubbish handlers. Like, I remember 2017, he didn't take Ashlyn Joy and he didn't take Claire Chastain, which seemed completely insane to me at the time, especially Claire. Um, and then, no Malks this time around. Um, not to say that there aren't great handlers on this team. It's just like when you think of those like absolute offensive centerpiece players, uh, they've tended not to take those players more often than not. So yeah, I'll be really curious to see if they change things up. And I feel like the USA often they really change their style over the course of the tournament. And they have had to have like players only meetings the last 2 times because they were not playing very well and they lost games and they were like, what do we do? Um, and we saw heavy doses of their best players down the stretch. Jack Williams was fantastic 3 years ago. Dylan Freechild was great. Trope. So we'll see if they end up, relying on some of those really top players again. Um, Super interested in this German side this time around. I was kind of expecting coming into the process after seeing that they didn't have some of their best players like Anna Gerner on the team this year. Like Gerner didn't try out. I was like, they're going to be a downgrade. But after watching them play at London Invite, I really don't know that I think that's true. Like they're maybe going to be a little bit less potent on offense, but I think their D line is going to be better. The big problem they had last time, Keith, they could not score with their D line on the field. They were like not deep enough. Their O line was basically the best at the tournament in terms of hold rate, but their defense just couldn't. They get the turns, but they couldn't score. And they ended up coming up short. Obviously, they got the big win over the U.S., but there's still so much talent here. I mean, Nico Mueller is going to lead the way in the backfield. Nikki Prian downfield, Levka downfield, such fantastic players. I'm really curious to see how they play Charlotta Shaw. And then, they just have like good, smart role players on this team. Like Jakob Diekman as like a kind of just like go deep and sky people kind of guy. Um, they've got Paul Harkins, who's going to be, I think, one of their leaders on the D line. Great block getter. I think they're a really balanced team this time around, and I expect them to finish second in this pool and get to semis. Um, but I won't be shocked if they beat the US. Like they're definitely capable.
last iteration of this team to me felt just so heavily dependent on Gerner, Mueller, and Lefka. And of those players, one of them's not there.
And Conrad.
Nico Mueller is even older, and Lefka is probably better. Like I struggle to, I can't say that I'm super familiar with everybody on this roster. I know Hartley Greenwald and Jakob Diekman were both really impressive at London Invite, and I know that Charlotte Shaw, Ava Mueller have been playing well in European competition. But I do wonder if this team's lack of experience, losing Anna Gerner, losing the Boyd Muellers, uh, are they going to have the seasoning and the offensive pop? Are they gonna be able to ask Nico Mueller to do what he did last time? Because there were points where it felt like they just couldn't reset the disc if he wasn't around. So I worry a little bit about this team being a bit fragile. I think they maybe learned lessons from last time about how to balance their lines and where their focus should be. Conrad Schluler is going to be obviously one of the best defensive players, and he's a tank. I think they're going to be asking a lot of him, but I'm curious to see how the rest of this roster shakes out because they do have a lot of changes, and they're going to need some of these newer players to step up in a big way if they want to replicate or exceed last cycle's performance. But they're in the right pool to do it.
I think it'd be interesting to see who takes on the throwing load that Gruner took last time. Because, I mean, obviously Mueller was the centerpiece, but Gruner did a lot for their offense. And it felt like at times at World Games, they kind of would break down just like doing the little things, like, getting the swings off. Just like having a crisp throw up line on a strike cut into the end zone. So, who's going to take those reps? Who do they want to try to get in those spots? Where do we see Conrad Schluler play? Because obviously he's such a tremendous defender. You want to keep him on your D-line as much as you can, but are they going to need him to cross over? Should be really fun to see what they are able to do.
With 14, though, you basically always are going to have some crossovers. I mean, it's just
that's
with
fair.
the gender ratios with 14. So I think you're probably going to see him he and Lefka, I expect, will cross over pretty frequently.
Japan, they've got some young players coming up. Ryo Shimizu is only 19. She was the youngest player on the Japan women's worlds team for last year as well. The Mayuka Takada is 25, but like a lot of their players who are coming back are in the age of their career. I mean, to me, this feels like the last chance or the foreseeable future for Japan to medal at the World Games, because you've got Matsuno at 41, who's player coaching. Taiyo Arakawa is 35. Yuka Kashino is 35. These are legendary players. Corono's 38. But, I don't see them coming back, most of them, 4 years from now. So can they ride this like unbelievable group that has medaled so many times, some of them even maybe connected to those early teams that were winning in the early 2010s. I just think like this is a cool opportunity for Japan to kind of like go out with one last hurrah. Not to say they're not still going to be good in the future. They may be back at this tournament, but they just don't quite have the same kind of like, especially on the like those players that have defined ultimate over the last 20 years.
I don't know. I think if you want to flip that on its head, I think that in some ways this is kind of a passing the torch team, but in a good, like, they have the experienced leadership of these players who've been there and who've done that, and then they have these young, exciting, athletic players. Like you look, like you mentioned Shimizu, you choose the best player on the U24 team that just went to the finals against the US in the women's division. Like, she's crazy good.
I think they have amazing
I think that they're
on the women's side. They have some amazing talent coming up.
losing Yuganihara is so tough. I mean, I think she was going to be one of their
It's
best real
brutal.
matching players, but that's unfortunately going to take away what I think would have been one of their best strengths is their real matching players are really strong. Um, I don't know exactly what to expect from the real matching players. Like you mentioned, you've got an older crop. You've got Akifuma Muraoka, who we've seen play stateside. It's had a lot of success. He could maybe be kind of the successor here. Uh, could be Korono. I know a lot of people in our Discord are really excited about Sho Okajima, the big show. Um, I don't know what to expect from their real matching side. I will say though, every time we start writing Japan off, they turn around and they flip things on their head. They're the best in the world at dictating the style of play. Maybe you say that to the Colombians offensively. No, everybody knows what Japan wants to do when they come out on offense, and still nobody's exactly figured out a way to get them to do something else. In the rare occasions that it happens, that is when you see them fold. On defense, they have a lot more trouble dictating because of a general lack of size. But offensively, they have the potential to be the best unit at the tournament. Uh, I think they're very live to beat Germany and challenge for semis.
That's the game in Pool A. The Germany Japan game is basically going to be a play-in game for semis. Feels like. So I can't wait. We got to keep it moving because I've got to go to bed, Keith. It's 1:45 a.m. China. I think we can all be honest. Almost no one knows what to expect from this team. Like China has had this amazing 5 years since COVID, where the sport has completely blown up, and so many players have started to pick up the game. It became very trendy in China. Rowan was here doing clinics, and this event may be the next phase. I'm sure it's going to fall out of fashionability, but this could help re-energize disc sports in China again, especially if this team has some success. So I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table. Um, they've been trying some, interesting defensive looks, flat marks, you know, saggy stuff in the lanes. I think they may pose a little bit more of a test defensively to the top teams at this tournament than we maybe would expect. My big question is going to be are they able to stay tough with the offense? And I I just don't know if they're going to have really experienced the level of defensive pressure that they're going to face because they're just not getting those same kinds of quality reps as you get playing in USAU club, for instance.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, if you think they're going to come out here and stink and score 3 goals a game, I think you're misunderstanding what's going on here. I think they're going to be better than that, but I think they're going to have trouble taking wins off of the quality of play that we're going to see. There's no layups. I think this team would benefit a lot if this were a 16 team tournament and they could get some chance to get reps under their belt against this level of competition. But there's just nothing in the portfolio of results from Chinese national teams to get you excited about this team's potential. They were a mid to bottom table team at WC and U24s. So I just, it's hard to be super optimistic about what this team could do. Now, does feel like a mystery box. They've got the home field advantage. We know that there's been this push for more Ultimate China, but until we see, it takes more time, I think, for these things to develop than what they've had to gestate. So then maybe this is the flashpoint that gets them going in that direction, but it's hard to imagine this being, rousing success for them from a wins standpoint.
So my final answer is I'm going USA, Germany, Japan, China. So to seed, and that's how they'll finish in Pool A.
I woke up taking Japan over Germany. Um, the Yuganihara news is a little shaking for me. On that front. I mean, it really feels like a coin flip, and losing a really strong player like that might be enough to tip the balance there. Uh, yeah, I think I do. I'm going to flip to Germany. I was on Japan coming into today. to take down Germany. But I think with that news, I'll take Germany. Sad to say it.
Okay. Let's move on to Pool B. Keith, why don't you kick us off with Australia at the top of the pool?
Australia, finalists at the last World Games, and also going to bring one of the most experienced units in international competition. We saw what Rob Andrews and Sam McGuckin could do at the last World Games. Kat Phillips is one of the best swim matching players in the world. Kaya Wea is another name I think you're going to start to hear a lot about. Tremendous athlete, was absolutely tearing it up at the World Ultimate Championships. John O'Keefe and Alex Gann are other consistent up and coming players that I think you're going to see a lot of. This Australian team, they are one of the few teams I think that will feel confident going up against the U.S. That's just something very few other teams I think could say, and that's in large part because of their experience and the success they've had internationally. So I think that in a lot of ways they should be marked as the favorites in this pool, even though I think most people are going to default to Colombia.
Yeah, I wonder a little bit whether like they're going to have quite the same punch they had 3 years ago. Um, and they definitely have enough talent on the roster to meet or even exceed what they did. Um, it's just the pool is so brutal. Like, how do you really pick what's going to happen here? Um, I just think that you know they've got like the size to be a problem for other teams, and they may be able to use that effectively against Colombia, um, possibly against Canada. Like the French and the Canadians both have some big players, also some really athletic, springy players. Um, and is the wild card going to be Cat Phillips in her fourth World Games? Plays professional Australian football league in Australia and has for a long time. 2 silvers at this tournament. Um, I think this is a great opportunity. This is a really exciting team. I feel like they're missing one or two of the pieces that would have gotten me excited from like last time around. I thought Tom Tullett was really really good in 2022, but Kaya Wea might be the breakout star. I'm ready. I'm ready for Kaya Wea to be like the wow player of this World Games. She jumped off the tape from London Invite so fast.
Yeah, I think that this Australian team, and when you look at Wea, Phillips, and Rob Andrews, like that's an athleticism trio that I'm not sure that anybody outside of the US can match that threesome. And then Sam McGuckin could be the best male matching thrower in this pool. So when you put all that together, like and the experience on this team, like I'm not sure why I see so many people doubting Australia.
Let's keep it going. Colombia. I think the team basically acknowledges Keith. It's like, how do we let our top women, right? Our women are the best at the tournament. They feel that. How do we let them dictate? And their strategy is going to be revolving around that. Obviously, you begin with the Cardenas twins. What more needs to be said? Incredible athleticism, incredible throwing. The two of them together just have a crazy connection. Gina Cartagena is still playing at a super elite level as a handler. And get ready for some Mapa Santos massive layout D highlights. And I was just looking back at some stuff from last cycle, and Jonathan Cantor, who's back on this roster, he got added to the 2022 roster like a couple days before as a replacement. He ends up having an awesome tournament. He never turns it over. So like that's exactly what they need from their men. It's like go out there, take care of the ball, get the disc back to Valeria, and let her throw amazing assists. Colombia was right there last year to get to the finals, but came up a little bit short. It's not easy sledding in this pool, but I think that the clear advantage that they're going to have on the women's side, for me, makes them. I don't want to say a lock because no one's a lock in Pool B, but I do expect them to get out and get to semis once again.
I mean, the optimism here is legit. I do, it's the same questions we've always asked about how can their male matching players hold up. Von Alba's got to be getting a little long in the tooth, and despite
He's
initially
38.
hearing that he wasn't going to be on the team, Andres Felipe Rama Ramirez, my favorite player from Colombia, is back, which I'm super hyped about. But like, is he going to be in the best position to play his best? I don't know. You know what you're going to get from you know Gina and Manu and Vale. Everybody know, like, we've seen plenty of Manji Ferrero and Amanda Montana and Laura Espina and all the Mapa Santos hype. Like, we know what we're getting from that side of the ball. Uh, it's just a question of, like, do they have. I will say one of their strengths is that they have a clear identity. Like, they know what they want to do. They know what they want to execute. They have a style of play. And I talked about how that favors Japan. I think that also helps Colombia really dictate play. But everybody's going to be also prepared for that. Can anybody actually stop it? That's a different question altogether. But uh, I see the buzz for Colombia. I think it makes sense, but I think their weaknesses are also clear.
Keith, take us through France.
Well, France, you want to talk about buzzy teams? There's been a lot of success for French national teams in recent competition, and they're bringing together some of their vets from last time and a lot of the young talent that's been up and coming in France. Camille Blanc, Lisanne Bourneau. We mentioned that Ava Bourneau, Lisanne's sister, won't be competing, but would have been another player along that group. Zoe Forget, Leo Sanguinec. This is going to be a super athletic team, especially in the women matching side. Elliot Bonet is probably the big name on the male matching side, another player who's like really entering the prime of his career, his athletic career. And they'll be asking some of the veterans to kind of hold down the fort in the backfield and operate as leaders. But I think this is going to be a team that's looking to utilize their youth and their athleticism to overrun teams. Uh, they didn't necessarily have the best showing they were competitive, but ultimately unsuccessful at the last World Games. I think they're going to have taken a lot of lessons from that, and we've seen how successful their programs have been as of late. And so I think that there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this French team, even though their key players are pretty young. They have a lot of national team experience, but at lower levels, this is a different kind of test for them.
I mean, they literally have two players coming off of winning a U20 title last year, and they have multiple players under 25. They only bring back 4 players from last cycle. Gaël Ancelin, Lisanne Bourneau, Sasha Poit-Sokolski, who's been a rock for French Ultimate for a while, and Sullivan Roblet. Otherwise, it's like mostly young players. And they are going to have amazing athleticism and the ability to like string together some epic runs, like 2-3 breaks in a row, giant layout Ds, big skies, energy plays. The question for me is, can they execute when the chips are down? They were a little sloppy at London Invite, and if they play that way at this tournament, they've got no chance. I mean, they will have no chance. You cannot like just put it into the ground on basic swing passes. But the talent level is undeniable. I wonder whether they're a cycle away from really being able to compete, because I think in 4 years they're going to be extremely good, like very dangerous, could beat the US, take gold type team. I think they have the potential to do that in a game here, but I have a hard time seeing them putting together like consistent levels of play, given what we saw and given what we've seen sometimes from, the linchpin player, Elliot Bonet. He can be unbelievable, but he's a little bit mercurial as a player. He'll have bad stretches as well. So I think I'm super excited to see what they're able to do, because in some ways I feel like it's beneficial for them to come in and just like have to play really strong right away. And maybe that hones the focus. We'll see. Let's move on
The
to
last team in this pool, Canada.
yeah. I'll take it. Um,
Yep.
they also only bring back 4 players, but they're not really. They do have some like strong young up and comers like Mika Kurahashi, a name everybody knows at this point, College Player of the Year. Marty Gallant, super fast, has like kind of exploded in his profile in Canadian Ultimate over the last couple of years. But the only people, well, I should, they bring back 5 players. Mark Lloyd did not play last cycle, but he's back as like the veteran leader at age 35, playing in his 3rd World Games. And then it's Lauren Kimura, Sarah Jacobson, Brittany Dos Santos, who I think was their best player last cycle, and Malik Oje Sama. Otherwise, they have a lot of players who've kind of like just developed. I think this team is so much more talented than the one they put on the field 3 years ago. Uh, you know, Anushka Beaudry, Thomas Edmonds, Quinn Snyder, Florence Dion. I like this roster so much more, and they looked the part at London Invite. I thought they look a lot more dangerous, and I think that are they a favorite to medal? They probably are, but they're still going to have to somehow get out of Pool B, and that's not going to be easy.
That is kind of the challenge. I think that I agree with you that I think this roster looks stronger. I think Canada took some of the fun people were poking at them and took that to heart. I mean, they were like, y'all think that we're fading. Like that is not us. I think that there's a sense of pride, but because of the context of this tournament, I think this team could be better than the last cycle's team and like finish last in Pool B. Like that's the unfortunate
Anyone could finish
reality
last in Pool B
that they face right now. I gotta say, it's a little worrying that to me, I don't know where Mark Lloyd's game is at, but it's a little worrying to me that they didn't have somebody else to call up. You know what I mean? Like he's 35. They're gonna ask him and Gagan Chata, who are another one of the older players on the team, like really manage the backfield and maybe get out of the way of BDS and Anushka Beaudry, Mika Kurahashi. I will say Lauren Kimura looked really strong in their pre-tournament lead-ups. Great to see her back on the field, and looks like she's going to be fantastic for them. I'd be really confident about that. But I wonder about their male matching players a little bit more.
You go back to the year they beat Molly Brown, Sixers, and Kimura looked like the best female player in Canada. And then she got hurt, and then like was kind of like effective, didn't play for a season. Maybe she's back. That'd be pretty big for them to have BDS and Kimura like running the show. I think you still sleep on this team, Keith. I'm really high on this Canadian team. I have them making semis. So you ready for my order? I went first last time.
How you're going to do this?
I'll let you go first.
Oh,
you go first.
Okay. It's very hard. I really want to talk myself into France, and I tried very hard to do so, but I just worry about their ability to survive in this type of high pressure environment. It's just so much to ask of young players who I'm not sure have that maturity and in a reasonable way. Like they should, like you just can't ask 22-year-olds to be that person yet in their career. And maybe they have 1 or 2 like that, but do they have 7? Because that's what it feels like they're going to need. And even some of their best players, like you mentioned, are mercurial. So I feel like there's not a lot of room for error for France. I mean, we talked about the environment here, and their youth worries me a little bit. Their inexperience, despite their athleticism, and unfortunately, they're also against teams that are very athletic. Like I don't know how much more athletic they are than Australia or Colombia or Canada. And like that's supposed to be their A1 strength. So I think I got to be a little cool on France, and that's going to lead me back to I have the qualms about Canada that I briefly laid out. I do think I think they're alive. Like don't get me wrong. it's not going to surprise me if they make semifinals. If they make the final, that would not surprise me. I think that's well within the range of outcomes. But when I got to push my chips in, I'm going to push them in with Australia and Colombia. I really
It's
want to
so
with
hard
France.
to leave it.
It's so hard I had to talk myself back out of France because I talked myself. I achieved my goal of talking myself into France, and I talked myself back out.
I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what to do. I mean, I have France finishing at the bottom of the pool. That's probably the thing I have the most conviction about, which is still low conviction. I'm going Colombia to win this pool and Canada second and Australia missing because somebody has to miss. Like I would take if there were pre-quarters, right, or there were pre-semis, right, if there were crossover games, I would take 3 teams from pool B making
Of course,
semis.
I think to us the 4 most likely teams or the 4 next strongest teams after the US are all in Pool B, right? Is there any Pool A team you think is stronger than the Pool B teams?
I do think at the end
Besides,
of the day, we may see Germany outperform France.
okay,
Wouldn't shock
I
me.
would not bet on that
But 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 I
if they were all in one pool.
yeah, but I do think that it's US and then there's at least 3 of the 4 next teams, maybe 4.
And
Um,
and
that's
it
why
is.
Pool B is crazy.
I mean, it's going to make for great theater leading up, but I am worried that it will negatively impact the ability of the teams that emerge from Pool B to compete with the US. I think that this format has broken all in favor of the favorites. Uh, the USA, like, they're going to likely be a lot fresher than their opponents by the time they get there, and that's going to help them be more successful, in my opinion.
I can't wait to just watch these games. My hypothetical semis are USA versus Canada. Give me the US. I have Colombia versus Germany. Give me Colombia. I feel like one way or another, we're going to get USA versus Colombia at some point. And is this the year? Is this the year?
I have reverse on the semis. I've got Germany against Australia and the US against Colombia. That leads me back to a rematch of last World Games, USA versus Australia in the final.
And you're taking US.
I will be taking the US. Chalk it up.
Yeah. I mean, I think push comes to shove, I'm taking the US as well. Even on a team with just 14 players, the depth is different, especially against Colombia on the men's side. So we'll see. Let's it's time to play these games. I don't think anybody really truly can feel super confident about their picks, which is why this is such a fun tournament. So it all
In your
kicks
case,
off
it's like
in
literally almost time to play these games.
Yes. Well, time works the same for you too, Keith, but I need to go rest before these games start. So I will sign off here. Super excited to be on the air tomorrow along with Robin Fennig. We'll be alternating the games. Robin will have the first game, and then I'll be doing Colombia, Canada, this game 2. So off we go. More to come on Deep Look, but not with me. Keith's holding it down the rest of the way. Thank you, Keith. Talking some UFA, talking some little challenge. We'll be back on Deep Look. Good night.
We're back here on Deep Look, and we dropped the dead weight. We finally got rid of Charlie, and I'm taking auditions. So if you're interested in filling Charlie's spot, maybe we don't have to give it back to him. You know, we could just hold on to it for ourselves. That was during the break a bit of our U.S. Open best of. You can check out the best of videos on our YouTube channel. Which if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, like what are you doing? Come on, you're missing out on some great content. And you can expect more of that during the World Games. We're hoping we're dropping a lot of great stuff for you, including advanced stats from every game, box scores, analysis, highlights. So stay tuned with us through the World Games. And before you queue up the World Games, make sure to enter in our contest too. We got the Beat Charlie Challenge where you can take on Charlie himself, and we've got fantasy leagues this year. Due to the hard work of Ben Murphy, he deserves a lot of credit for helping build this. Jenna Weiner helping out as well. But you can now draft against your friends, or if you want to, fellow subscribers in the Discord. Really anybody. Just get your parents, pull them off the street, pull people off the street, find people at the grocery store. Anybody. You just got to do it before the games start. So go ahead and fire up a draft. I recommend 4 teams with 5 male matching and 5 women matching players each. But do it you feel. You get to decide the format. We'll do all the work. All you gotta do is enter in the spreadsheet, copy the spreadsheet and enter in which players are getting drafted to which team, and then bang, follow along and have fun. It's a lot more fun when you have somebody you're rooting for. So highly recommend checking out the fantasy drafts. We've already got a bunch going on in the Discord. I've done a few. Charlie and I did one with guest Daniel Prentice and our subscriber bonus segment last week. And I think we may have one coming from the pod practice folks tonight, who are going to be in our Discord, I believe, for a watch party for the USA game. So come hang out in the Discord with them, get their elite player thoughts on what's going on in the games, and check that out with us. That kind of wraps up where we're at with World Games stuff. Want to make sure that we check in on some of the other things going on, because the Ultimate World hasn't stopped turning. We had Elite Select Challenge. Our streaming schedule has gone live for the Elite Select Challenge. So we've got a bunch of games coming up from this event. So you can see the schedule here. I'm not even sure that this is on Insta yet. But apologies to my producer, Lindsay Sue. I cannot read this. I don't know. I hope other people can, but it is too pixelated for me to be able to read. So I can't walk you through it at the moment. But got games coming in Elite Select. We'll have 3 streams going per round. So we've got teams like Sockeye competing in the first round. Towers coming up later in the day. Disco Club. There we go. So Sockeye and Sprout coming in that first round matchup. Shine and Polar Bears as well. Durham Toro, one of the early season strong mixed teams, as well as Mixtape, who's like the 9 seed at this tournament. What's going on? That should be a fun one. Pac-Men, a lot of buzz about them. They're taking on Shrimp, who I imagine are going to be looking to follow up on last year's success. You've got Ozone and Dark Sky, 2 Nationals hopefuls, hoping to battle it out. Bids, a big part of the ESC questions, and Dark Sky and Ozone are both in the hunt for those precious bids to Nationals. So that'll be a big part of what you want to watch for at ESC as you take a look at the schedule. Let us know what you like from the schedule in the chat as well. We also had the UFA Divisional Championship weekend take place over the weekend. And the results from that one, some surprises. Not to me that Boston beat DC. It was a bit of a surprise that they absolutely drummed them. Didn't see that one coming. Atlanta manages to shake off the Ghosts. It turns out if you have a big lead going down the stretch, even your own foibles can't get in your way. Strong showing from Atlanta to take down San Diego in a game that they were in control of. But all the drama came in those last 2 games. Minnesota again They did it again. They upset Chicago in a absolutely wild game. This was a kind of a windy mess for much of the way. Just like throws popping up in the air, and players chaos ensuing after that. What looked like sure completions turning into jump balls and stuff like that. But Minnesota clutching up down the end of the run, get the incredible block from Noah Hansen. Uh, just can't hold on to it all the way for Callahan, but got a crazy layout block in the end zone. They were able to convert on that, and that put them up. Chicago, they also got a tremendous toe in to save possession on what would have been Chicago's final chance to score had they turned it over from Dylan DeClerc. I still don't exactly know how he got that in bounds. Crazy scenes over in that one. Minnesota takes the win again and leaves all the haters stunned, as well as the Kalshi betters. Minnesota does it again. They'll be back at championship weekend. And then Salt Lake and Oakland in a back and forth affair. Salt Lake comes out and starts out up 3-0. Oakland surges back in front, and then Salt Lake able to close it down at the end of that one. So we got a bit of the drama that we were missing in the prior round. We got a lot more of that this time around in some pretty exciting divisional games. But now it's on the championship weekend, which is 2 weekends from now. So we'll start to see who's really going to take the crown. You got Boston taking on Salt Lake and Minnesota taking on Atlanta. And those are on Friday, August 22nd. And the championship game will be on Saturday, the 23rd. Should be a fun one. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this show. Again, get into those fantasy contests. Get into the Beat Charlie Challenge. Go ahead and make your picks for the World Games and see if you can beat Charlie. We've got some great prizes for you. And otherwise, Charlie and I will be doing some subscriber bonuses, hopefully, during the course of the World Games. We'll be able to check in with you. So if you are not subscribed, you're going to be missing out on a lot of great World Games content, from the stats to Charlie and I's impressions from what's going on to the watch parties in the Discord. Make sure that you are plugged in, because it's going to be electric. You're going to have the best Ultimate players in the world take each other on a high-pressure environment, a lot of high variance. World Games is going to be a ton of fun. See you there. I thought I picked right with the spider.